Hello library friends, it's Miss Liz and today we're not having paper cuts, we are having flannel cuts. I have been asked several times where I get the flannels I use during programs, and the answer is I make them myself. So today I'm going to show you how you can make your own flannels, because flannels are a great teaching resource. They're just great for imaginative play, they're great for keeping kids occupied, and they are pretty cheap to make. And you can make anything you need. You can make alphabet, you can make shapes, you can make colors, you can do animals, you can do flowers. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can probably make a felt of it. First, you have to decide what you're going to make. After you've made that choice, you have two options for getting a pattern. You can either find a stock image, print it out, or you can draw it yourself. Just depends on what you want to do. Remember, your felt does not have to be absolutely photorealistically perfect. It's actually really fun if you abstract it a little, you simplify it down, it makes a much better felt, and it's much easier to work with. So if you draw it and it doesn't look quite like you think it should, don't worry about it as long as it's close enough. That will work. You are just drawing a symbol of something from the real world, not something from the real world itself. As long as your kids can tell what it is, that's all that matters. We're going to be remaking a cow that has lost his tail. So we are going to have the stock image of the cow that I'm going to cut out. I have 3 copies. You're going to need at least 2 copies. Sometimes you can get away with one, but it's better to have multiples. You're going to need some very sharp scissors, some scotch tape, some glue. I've got Fabri-Tac. You can use different kinds of glue depending on what you prefer. I've got all my felt. I've got some white felt, I've got some brown felt for the spots, and I've got some pink felt for the cow's nose. And to start everything off, I'm going to cut out the image of the cow. So I'm not going to use my felt scissors for this, I'm going to use regular scissors. I have a pair of felt scissors that is strictly for use on felt because I want them to be very sharp. So we're going to speed through me cutting out this cow because I'm going to cut out the cow as a whole, and then we're going to have to cut out all the different colored parts. Okay, what we have just cut out is going to be our base, so it's going to be the main color of the cow, the background color of the cow. Now on my second image, I'm going to cut out any part of the cow that is not going to be white. So those spots, the nose, the ears, and the eyes. Okay, now I can show you all the different sections I have cut out. We have our base, and on top of that we have our back spot, our middle spot, we've got a nose, we've got 2 ears, we've got the ear spot, and we also have the eye. So everything I don't want to be white, I've cut out a copy of. And doing this means that when I put everything together, everything's going to line up. And it just gives you a very clean looking felt. After you put it all together, it looks really nice. So now it's time to start cutting things out. Okay, I'm going to take my base cutout and put it on my white felt, and then I'm going to tape it down. When you tape your cutout or your paper, your outline, your pattern down to your felt, it keeps it from moving. You don't have to worry about turning your felt around. It just makes it so much easier. You could trace it, but this saves you some steps. It does use a lot of tape, but it is worth it. And after we get this all taped down, we're going to get out our sharp felt scissors and cut out our base. Okay, now that we have gotten it cut out, we're going to remove the paper, and that is the base for your cow. Next, we're going to have to cut out all the different pieces that are not white that are really going to make your cow come into shape. So we're going to get our brown, and we're going to start cutting out the spots. Okay, now I'm going to assemble the cow, without gluing anything on it first. So I'm going to make sure all my pieces, I know where they're going, I know that they're facing the right way, I'm not putting anything on backwards. This is also a good time to make some trims if things don't line up 100%. It's always better to cut things too big than too small. So I'm going to make sure everything fits on the cow the way I want it to. I'm going to make sure I don't need to make any adjustments. I'm going to get an idea of what my cow looks like, see if I want to add any different colors, any more spots, any of anything. And I'm going to figure out which side each ear goes on, because they're different shapes and they will only fit correctly on a certain side. So I think we've got that right. And now we're going to add our last spot, and that really makes the shape of the cow come out. You can see the face, you can see the ear there. And you can outline everything if you want to get a marker, if you want to use fabric paint, if you want to use fluffy paint, you can color your base that way. You don't have to do it this way. This is just the way I enjoy doing felt, because I like the way it looks and I like the way it feels. Can't forget the eyes. We almost had a cow with no eyes, which is fine. You can get pretty artistic and abstract with your felts. If you're using them for really young kids, you cannot go too simple and abstract, because then they won't be able to tell what you are doing. So just keep that in mind. And if you're using them for teaching age for younger kids, make sure you don't make them too non-realistic. Now it is time to start gluing the cow down. Doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to leave the other pieces in place while I start to glue. I'm using Fabri-Tac, which works well for me, but there are a bunch of other options you can use. Some people use tacky glue, some people use Elmer's glue. It genuinely depends on your preference. Let's talk about something I did not do. I did not cut out hooves for my cow, so I am going to make some hooves. Because it's at the end of a leg, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scrap piece of felt, I'm going to glue it to the end of the foot, and then I'm going to trim it to be the shape I want it to be. And after I've done that on all 4 feet, we'll be ready to move on to the last step. Okay, at this point you may think my cow is done, and you can add a lot of little details if you want, using anything you want. Puffy paint, fabric paint, markers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a backing. So I'm going to glue the whole cow to another piece of felt and then cut out around it so there is a little background around it. That just makes it sturdier. It gives it a nice color contrast, and it makes the cow stand out. I don't like how the red looks, so I'm going to find another color and see how that looks. So we're going to go with this lovely bright green. And all I'm going to do is I am going to glue the cow onto this big piece of felt, and then we're going to cut out around it, and we're going to leave a little border of the green all around the cow to just give it some extra stability. It just looks nice. You don't have to do it, it's a completely optional step. And that's it. I have a replacement cow, and that is how you make a felt out of just about anything you could ever want a felt of. Thanks for joining us today for not paper cuts but flannel cuts, and we'll see you again next time.